Hey guys, this is my gear today. 1438 brush from Semogue. 1936 Aristocrat from Gillette. American Aristocrat. With the Gillette Silver Blue, pretty young one. Just 3 shaves on it into the razor. And Black Ship Grooming Captain's Pipe. Now, I've really enjoyed their base, and I was talking online with some guys, and a couple especially really did not like the base, and often don't like bases with that first ingredient of coconut oil. Now, I've used 7 doubloons and I think 2 bits lately as samples, and one of those I really enjoyed the base. Didn't take very much soap to get a lot of lather. I think a 1/4 teaspoon gave me like 7 passes of lather, which is crazy. And this one I've had for a while, at least a year. It's got a nice tobacco scent to it, a little bit of cherry, like it kind of says on the side here. A special blend of pipe tobaccos with just the right hint of cherry. And I like a lot of the scents from Black Ship Grooming, formerly Beaver Woodwright. And I like the performance. I've been very happy with a couple of the samples I got. So let's shave with this one, and we can make this an example maybe to the guys I was talking to, or maybe I can just pay attention to the base. It took a lot of water last time I used this base. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe it doesn't fit their shave style, the way they load up their brush, how much water they add, that sort of thing. And so that's fine. Let's see just what we are going to have happen. So as you can see, I scooped it last time I used it. And I'm going to just get my face wet. Probably about 24 hours since I shaved last, so typical beard growth. And since, now this is the 1936. So while I am going to be paying attention to the soap base and just enjoying the soap, I am going to also be paying attention to the razor. Yesterday, last shave, I used the same blade in a 1934. I have it right here just to again show you the difference like I did yesterday. See the height of the heads? The 36 is a taller head. Got maybe a little bit more curve to it. Maybe it's going to be a more comfortable shave. We'll see. This one wasn't too bad of a shave. Pretty good, in fact. A little blade feel to it. I'm going to guess this one might be even better. Oh, and while we're showing the differences there, you can look in the 34 doesn't really have grommets right here. They're more like posts. Whereas here you can kind of see it's more like a grommet type thing. And if you look underneath, got to remember which one has the blade in it. The 34 will just have a diagonal right here across where that post might be coming out. So the height of the head is the easiest way. But sometimes if you're looking at an eBay ad or something, it may not be a certain way of determining. And so here's that other piece right here. See, look, this doesn't have that diagonal. You can definitely see a hole right there. And there is a slight diagonal because there's a wall right there that kind of curves around, and it's a half curve. But as you can see, looking at it here, you can definitely see the circle there, the hole that the grommet is making and stuff. And so that can help you, if you do see pictures in eBay or whatever, it can help you tell between a 36 and a 34, because the guy who sold me this claimed that it was a 34. And I brought it online here. I was all excited that I had finally gotten the world's first TTO production razor. And then I had one of you knowledgeable viewers respond and comment that I did not have the 34. Well, so that set me on a hunt. So let's shave now with a 36 and see how that feels. Now this little brush has surprised me. I've used it several times. I have gotten it wet a lot, really worked it on a towel, you know, that sort of thing. And so the tips are getting better, but this has more backbone than most of the other Semogues that I have. Now the 1438, according to my notes, is similar to the 620, which is the Semogue brush that has this same grade bristle, but with a plastic lucite type handle that, of course, is going to last longer than the painted wood, most likely. It's the extra grade hair, so it's not quite as good as the best grade hair, the premium grade hair, or the special grade that is in the Semogue Owners Club Boar brushes. But you know, I found this a really enjoyable brush. That backbone was helping the tips to stay on my face. It was a nice scrub, but it wasn't scritchy or anything like that. So I am confident that this brush is going to give me some very interesting shaves and nice ones, especially once the tips start splitting. Shaking out most of the water as usual. Let's just do a normal 30-second load and see how that goes with this soap. That's 10 seconds. "30 seconds is probably, and that's 20 seconds. 30 seconds is probably overkill, because I've discovered that I can probably use half of a quarter teaspoon measure and get all the passes that I need. And some soaps, even more expensive ones, require that I use the whole quarter teaspoon measure. So in terms of soap economy, this soap base seems like a good one. Rinse out the threads on the side of the tub. Keep those from locking up like years down the road. All right. So that's what it looks like. It's very deceptive sometimes how much soap will actually go into a brush. So I do like timing. If you just load consistently, then timing is a nice measure. If you have consistent pressure, then that can be a reasonable measure. You can also count swirls. Some people say 100 swirls, or whatever. It's a thirsty soap. I think one time I used a quarter teaspoon and I ended up using 7.5 teaspoons of water. I like to work it a little bit before adding water. I'm feeling comfortable adding a whole 2 teaspoons at the beginning. Don't think that's going to be a problem considering the track record I've had with this soap base. This handle is small, so if you've got small hands or maybe need a travel brush, or you're just a face latherer, it's not too bad if you're a face latherer. It's a little bit of a chore as a bowl latherer, but if I like to where this knot is going, I think it's a great one to move into a handle that's just a little bit longer that I might enjoy more. Okay, I'm just going to stir that for a little bit, and let's go ahead and, why not? Let's just add 2 more teaspoons. So if that's 4 teaspoons, we'll get this to be a nice mixture, and then we will look at it. Dang it, I knocked some out, but it wasn't really too much. Maybe about 7 drops. Got a little too brush happy and stirred too much there. Too vigorously. Small little Boar brush. I can feel the stiffness as I'm moving it around in the bowl. It did soak for a while, maybe half an hour. so it should be fine. If you're new to boar brushes, they do require a break-in period, and most people like to soak them before the shave. I find that at least a 3 or 4 minute soak is kind of required, because boar bristles they absorb water, much more water than badgers. Synthetics don't absorb anything. Badgers absorb a little bit. Certain badgers do. Boars absorb a lot. That's why they start out feeling like a broom. But then after you soak them for just a few minutes, they change dramatically. Well, this is looking good. And it kind of doesn't really look like it's overwatered. Look at that nice elasticity there. But we still have a lot of, look at all those peaks and textures in your bowl. As you learn what your lather should look like for your preferences, just the appearance in the bowl. If you keep using the same base for a while, you can learn how the bowl appearance should look. Is it, is it peaky? Does it have a lot of jaggedy things? If you like really wet lathers, then, the peaks just kind of fall down and can't support their own weight. Does the surface, like if I pull this up, you see these ridges right there going through that smooth section? If there are some soaps that I like to have so wet that those ridges can't exist. And so that's a good visual cue. I was talking to somebody online today about this syringe I use, and they were a little confused, thinking that I was using a syringe because I was putting a pre-measured amount of water into the lather, and that's kind of backwards. I'm just using it to apply however much water I need, because it's easy with the syringe to put in just a few drops. Like if I'm in the mid-shave and I need to put some drops on the top of add it to the brush. Or, like you saw earlier, it was very easy for me to apply 2 teaspoons at a time with the syringe. And then by measuring how much I use in the shave, I'm able to pass it on to you viewers. And there might be a few of you out there who appreciate that info, especially if you're using maybe the same soap base and you are having trouble. Your lathers just aren't quite turning out right. And so if you have a brush similar to mine, then you can probably get to a decent ballpark area by using the same amount of water that I use. It's not going to be exact. It all depends on your brush and water hardness and all that stuff. But it might get you close enough to where you can really start to learn more about your lathers and be happier with them. And that's why I do it. And I'm also just curious. I could add water with the syringe and not really track it, but I'm just curious about the soap bases. I would have never, and remembering the amount helps me to put the same amount in next time. Like for instance, it can give me a shortcut, like knowing that I put in 7.5 teaspoons into one of the black ship grooming soaps. That would be a chore if I was doing that half a teaspoon at a time. All right, now I'm jabbing my brush down into the lather to push the lather up into my brush. I'm not making it splay a lot, very little actually. And then you can look at the appearance of your lather. Now, I'm going to go ahead and shave with this. I may need to add more water, but we'll see. But that's a good looking lather. Maybe with so much coconut oil, it just takes a while to work the lather. And so maybe the guy that really didn't like it, the kind of lather and the soap that he enjoys is maybe something that whips up a little quicker. I don't know. So this brush is young, Boar brush, and it's typical for this to happen. The brush looked like it had a good bit of lather but then when you start working it on your face, it starts to disappear. Young Boar brushes can do that. Now you can start, applying some of the lather from the side of the brush, but and this is because young Boars don't open up very much, and that's one of the things you are waiting for patiently as you use your Boar, as you train it up for it to open up and hold more lather. There we go. All right, so how does this lather feel? There's some slickness. It's a watery kind of slickness. It's not a buttery or fatty kind. I might look at my other sample, the 7 doubloons that I had. One of those guys, it was either 2 bits or something that I just really like the feel of it. I mean, you can definitely tell it's not a bison or Icarus or, something like that. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's see what happens. Look how it's kind of dissipating on my face. I wonder if I've got enough water in it. Let's just see what happens when I add water. Well, you can see that water start to come together there. There we go. Well, I think the lather is wet enough. Let's see how my face feels. Yeah, nice and slick. Creamy. Happy with that. The thickness of a lather doesn't matter nearly as much as that thin layer that it's going to put down on your skin. Chiseled Face makes Midnight Stag, and it kind of reminds me of this kind of lather, though it's a little better than this one, I think, where it's a little bit airy. Now, do we have the micro bubble thing going on with this lather? Yep, sure do. Tiny, tiny, tiny bubbles, not those big ones you can see, but really tiny ones that the camera may not be able to show you, but they're there. And sometimes they add structure, support to the lather where it will kind of stand up on its own. But that's really interesting. That one of the samples I got recently just really kind of took my breath away. I really enjoyed it. All right, so now let's try and see what the 36 feels like. Is it gonna feel better? Of course, it's not really a fair comparison because yesterday I shaved with a premium soap base, some Icarus. Now, same blade. This is being kinder to my skin. A little bit less razor feel. So I think I like the comfort and smoothness of the 36 a little better. my neck hair grows sideways, and so try to stick to that, and then it kind of turns down, and over here it gets weird. So it really took me a while to figure out the right pathways to use. All right, a little rinse. All right, so let's put up pass number 2. Hate it when lather goes flying off. I'll work to generate that lather. I don't want it going anywhere. So I prefer soaps that get wet enough without. Of course, you know what it is? I think it's this brush, since it's so stiff, that tends to kind of act like a springing motion. And it's not spreading the lather quite as nice as some of the softer brushes, because you can see it's creamy and stuff. Glad I got a plastic bowl here. Again, let's grab some of this lather and just kind of feel it in my fingers. Yeah, very similar to Chiseled Face. A little on the bubbly side, but slick underneath. So it's going to do the job. Who knows? Maybe that other sample I have was a new base, because they did just recently on Black Friday put out a couple of new soaps, seasonals. Could those have been in the new base? Or one of them? Because I remember one of them stunned me and the other one didn't. If you see the razor skipping like that, that often means that the lather's too wet. I think it's probably true in this case. I don't think I'd want to go wetter than this. This is a nice, comfortable shave. I do like it better than the 34. So the 34 is more the piece of history that'll still give you some blade feel, and some people like that. 35, smoother. I'm sorry, 36 is smoother. And rinse. So now that I've figured out that I think maybe my lather is a little too wet, it's easy to fix that. Let's just do a couple of rounds like that in the soap. Kind of work that onto my face. I can go back in and get some of the lather from the bowl. If you add very much soap at all, you're going to need to go back and add a little water to it. And maybe this soap base is one that I need to load a little lighter, a little drier than I might normally. You know, don't take it to where the lather is quite as elastic. Just kind of putting some drops in my brush. Trying to keep the water from coming out the base. Yeah, that's a creamier lather for sure. Probably just wet it a little too much. It's good to push them far, get them really wet so you can know how far you can take them. A lot of people use lathers that are too dry, in my opinion. And look at all that Nice creamy lather that I just generated by adding that water. Yeah, I overwatered this guy. Look at all that. And that's denser lather than I had before. So now, let us feel. See if we can kind of tell. Yeah, that's creamier. Still pretty much you can feel a little higher viscosity, a little thicker, but in the end it's still that same kind of wet slickness, not that buttery slickness, you know, but it's still slick, just like it was before. All right, let's shave. Cross grain again. Well, wouldn't it be funny if by hunting for the 1934, I found the 1936 and actually liked the way it shaves better. But I do have the English version, 16, the one before it, the 15, which is very much like this open comb. The 16 is a closed comb, and they shave really well. That 15 might shave just like this guy. And this Gillette Silver Blue is working really well in this blade. Very comfortable. It does look like it's giving me a nice close cut. Yeah, very nice. Pretty much just as close as yesterday, but more comfort involved. Secondary slickness. Get my finger a little wet and just kind of feel around. It doesn't excel in that department, but there's a little bit. Not bad. It's a fairly low-cost soap. The scents are really nice. I like some of those for sure. But yeah, this particular base is not going to be, you know, near the top tier bases. It's not going to be quite as high as Sterling, for instance, as well. It's a nice tallow base. This one isn't tallow, right? Top ingredients: coconut oil, shea butter, stearic acid, potassium hydroxide, water, glycerin, fragrance, and essential oils. So I think it's got to say taloate or something like that too. You know, like potassium taloate or sodium something. And so I don't think this would be a tallow soap. All right, let's give it a rinse. So it's not a superb lather. It'll get the job done. And yeah, it looks like I need to run this one a little drier than I might normally. In terms of smell, you definitely get a good whiff of it when you stick your nose in the bowl. It's not very strong though in face kind of form. I didn't really notice it. It was very light when I had it on my face. But with a 30-second load plus that little, 5-second extra, I've got plenty of lather to do the job. So I'm interested in finding out if that one sample I tried was maybe some different base or something like that. I'll look into that. So, how the little boars look after you kind of clean them up. They don't usually take too long to clean because they're so small. Nice flow through. They just don't have as much density as some of those new badgers do. So they don't take too long to clean at all. And then I just take it to my towel. And since it's a wooden handle under the paint, Just wipe as much water off as you can. And I've learned to pretty much use this little handle all right. There's definitely plenty of scrub in this guy, but it'll be interesting to see how he looks with a lot of uses on him. I think he's got 8 or 9 now. And Excelsior. And very inexpensive. Very. And we used 5 1/4 teaspoons of water. So that's pretty thirsty for a soap. 5 1/4. So I'm guessing it's the curvature, the extra curvature of the blade that the 36 has that makes it more comfortable than the 34. And I can see why they made that change. But either piece, just terrific little pieces of history. Look terrific. And as far as I know, they pretty much have the same insides. They have that diamond pattern. The Aristocrats from the United Kingdom, some of those have the diamond pattern, and some of the base plates are solid. And sometimes that's a very good delineator between 2 different models. I need to polish these guys up, but I have to do some research first because sometimes this gold plating is thin on certain razors. So it's good to do your research first, and also do your research about what kind of abrasive to use. Sometimes all you want to use is like a white toothpaste, because that has a very mild abrasive in it, not the gel kind, not the clear kind, but the white, or maybe none at all. Just keep it in kind of used vintage appearance. I like doing that too sometimes. All right, so Captain's Pipe, not a super strong scent. One of my favorites from them is Captain Dark Side. It's got some neat scent notes to it that I really enjoy. But since this is not very strong, it's possible I may sell this guy, and because a lot of people make pipe smoke, pipe tobacco type scents out there, that's for sure. So yeah, after looking at this lather with a critical eye, this particular soap is not, in the top zone in terms of the soap base. It does fall into that family of soaps that lay down a very usable and slick, close layer to the skin, but then the kind of the extra foam and stuff around is kind of airy and high structure, stands up kind of on its own, instead of being low and gluey like a few of the new bases that are coming out or have come out in the last year or two. So that's it does kind of fall into that category, and so it's not quite as nice as something like Sterling, and even some of those other ones like Haslinger Fine Accoutrements, have a little bit better soap bases than this one. And so and I kind of put Chiseled Face into this category as well. And I've used Midnight Stag a lot back in August. I used it every day. So I know about that base as well. I'd probably rate that one a little higher than this one, but they're in the same general category because of those traits that I just mentioned about the thin layer with the airy layer. At least that's the way it feels on my face. And so with that genre of soaps, what I kind of relegate them to is, since they have a reasonable lather, I focus on, do I want to keep them or enjoy them based on the scents? And I love so many of Chiseled Face's scents. And so for the same reason, I might keep some of the Black Ship soaps as well for that same reason. Creative, enjoyable. And in my case, I gravitate toward manly scents. And they definitely have those in spades. I really enjoyed Seven Doubloons a lot. And I think I enjoyed the Two Bits and the Classic pretty well. The only thing I might have had against them was being maybe a little too light in the scent strength department. All right, well, there we go. I barely smell the scent of the soap on me here now after the shave. I am getting a little bit of kind of dryness. That might have been the thickness and unwatered down state of the soap in that last pass as I got more soap, and so I put together a thick concentrate on my face first and then added water, so that can sometimes affect the way your face feels after the shave. So let me throw on a balm and then I'll hit the sack. Tobacco is kind of in the warm, spicy type category, and so let's follow that up with a warm, spicy. Number 63 from Provence, a French maker, and they have a vegan soap. Just putting a few drops of water on my face to help the cream spread around the lotion. The tobacco wasn't really spicy. The soap I used just now, the Captain's Pipe, I said spicy, but that really only applies to this and not the soap. Pretty much straight. The soap was pretty much straight tobacco and hint of cherry. It was it's a nice scent. I like it. Just a little low in strength, so I might pass that on to somebody else. The scent that I had on my face is definitely not strong enough to conflict with this one, so that's nice. One thing you can do, and I like to do, gives you a little perspective change sometimes, is to go back and smell the puck after you now have this kind of cloud of post-shave around you. Yeah, I think those two are complementary to each other. Nice little combo there. It's a nice transition from one to the other. All right, well, I think everything's packed up. So there's another shave down in the books, and so I did find out what I kind of wanted to know about the Black Ship base, and I also found out that the 36 is a more comfortable razor, while for me still being a pretty good cutter. More comfort, closeness is pretty much the same. So that's a win. 36 is my preferred razor in regards to the 34. Whether I'll keep the 34 around as a historical piece, we'll see. I generally only keep pieces that I do plan on using on a regular basis, somewhat regular basis. But I also may send the 36 to another home, since it probably shaves very similar to my 15 from the UK. And the 15 from the UK is a really nice silver model, silver color, because it's probably rhodium plated, and so I might keep that guy. So keep the 34 for history, and I can shave with it every once in a while, and then when I want the more comfort piece of history, I could switch over to the 15 or one of the UK Aristocrats. But man, the 36 is a great shaver. It's beautiful, and it's a piece of history. It's nice balance, nice weight to it. The nice heft balance point is right about there, and that's pretty much where I hold it. And it just feels good. The checking and the knurling here is perfect, because it's enough to where you are not going to drop the razor even if things get soapy, but it doesn't bother your fingers at all. So very nice. All right, well, night guys. Time for me to go, and I hope there's been something here for you. Thanks so much for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Take care.